Welcome to The Mystic Fool. I'm Martin Worth, and this is The Mystic Fool.
Hey, it's been a couple of weeks since I put a podcast up. It's a little bit slack of me, really, hey? But it's been an interesting couple of weeks. There's been a lot of information coming through around parallel time tracks. Yeah. Still sussing it out, you know? I definitely know that it is possible to jump into either the skills or knowledge or information of another associated version of me, which perhaps you might like to call a parallel time track. Or maybe not. As I say, I'm still coming to terms with it. But I know it works. One of the theories is that there are parallel versions of you which exist contemporaneously. That meaning at the same time. There's another version of you that's living a life that is very similar to yours, but on a different frequency. Sometimes people say, hey, I'm sure I saw you down the coast. You've got a double. I wonder if sometimes the parallel versions of us are actually within this space-time continuum. Or maybe parallel versions of us sometimes appear within this space-time continuum. I wonder if this is another explanation for déjà vu. I did a podcast on déjà vu a while back from the perspective that was available then. But now I wonder, déjà vu. Is that where maybe rather than just getting a message from our higher self at that point in time, is that a time when we actually shift time tracks for some cosmic reason or another? Maybe in the case of the déjà vu incident that I shared in that past episode, where a friend of mine was driving down the road, had a sense of déjà vu, thought she'd seen the same two people standing at the side of the road as she drove past with a strange, ominous feeling. Is it possible that in another time track those people stepped onto the road and she smashed into them, or something not desirable happened? But with déjà vu, with higher self stepping in, and that sense of déjà vu, boom, she shifted time tracks and avoided a nasty collision. Yeah, is that possible? In the healing work that I do, we talk about going back to incidents that have occurred in a person's life. You know, a moment of obvious negativity, you know, argument, abuse, bullying, whatever it might have been, or even simply the fact that someone made a misinterpretation of a situation which stayed with them for the rest of their life. You know the stuff I'm talking about without going into detail. And we loop time on that time track, and then we create a new time track going forward. It occurs to me that this is the same thing. This is shifting time tracks. And it is said that the old time track doesn't go away. Just because you've shifted from one television channel to another doesn't mean the other television channel has stopped playing. It's still playing out. The old television show on Channel 2, for instance, is still playing when you switch to Channel 7. in the same way that the program on Channel 7 was still playing while you were listening to the program on Channel 2. And the choice as to which program to listen to is simply a choice of changing frequencies, isn't it? Perhaps when we shift a frequency within ourselves, we do drift to a different program, different channel, different time track. Perhaps there is truth in the fact that all of these different time tracks, just as the channels on a television set are running at the same time, that there are parallel versions of you who have made different choices than what you made at certain important junctures of your life. It's not as simply as turn left or turn right. It's take this job or don't. It's go out with this person or don't go out with that person. Whatever. Yeah. So parallel time tracks. I know there is benefit in parallel time tracks, or at least I know, because I've, on the healing table, seen people shift time tracks. Before I thought about parallel time tracks, I figured they were just looping the old one back and starting a new one from that point forward, and maybe that's true too. But the information that's coming through at the moment is that maybe it's a little bit more than that. Maybe it is a parallel. Maybe this is where a parallel time track starts, when we make a change consciously within this lifetime. And according to several sources of information that I've been looking at, the old time track continues, but it's on a completely different frequency. It's interesting stuff. There is another theory that we are always shifting time tracks from moment to moment. That the shifting of time tracks from moment to moment is like a little flip chart where you have a little figures marked on different pages and you flip them and it appears that they're moving. These are all now moments, a series of now moments joined together that creates a timeline. Yeah. So each time we shift from this moment to this moment to this moment to this moment, the reason that's happening is because we're shifting frames, we're shifting time tracks. Each of those time tracks could have a completely different past to the time track that we just shifted from. And this is like an array of parallels in a matrix of now moments, a crystalline matrix perhaps of now moments, where the nodes are the choices, the nodes are the movement from one now moment to the next. And between those now moments is a spaciousness. Because as we know, even if you look at a crystal, which I'm sure most of you have, you look at a crystal and it appears solid. It's only solid because of the vibration that it's vibrating at. That crystal is actually more space than it is matter. We know this to be true. Even the oscillation of one atom of that crystal has more space within it than the solid matter that atom is supposedly made up of. And it's only the vibration at which that atom vibrates that actually creates a solid field. So think about the spaciousness that exists within that crystal that appears solid. Think about the spaciousness that exists between the now moments that you are experiencing now, and now. Have you ever looked at the second hand of a clock? Obviously a clock that has hands, not a digital clock. And have you ever looked at it and sometimes noticed how long it takes for the hand to move from 1 second to the next? Because I have. And I've noticed that sometimes it seems like a lot more than a second has passed between that hand going tick, tick, tick. It's the silence between the ticks is actually greater than the tick itself. So in this analogy, there is more space between the seconds than the seconds actually take up within our lives. And space is where the essence is, the element of ether, spirit, the interconnectedness of all things. So I encourage you to consider the space between the now moments that create the time track of your life. And pause for a moment between the now moments and explore the space that is there. Because within that space is all the power, all the magic, all the connectedness between all things through all space and time, and also all of the choice as to which now moment you will move forward upon. By default, there's probably a program run. Yeah, I just got a phone call then, so so the transcript stopped and I changed time tracks for a moment and went to a different channel where I had to speak to someone about something completely different. And now I'm back here on this time track and I'm trying to remember what it is that I was saying before I was bumped onto another time track. Oh, love it, hey. Yeah, I think I was talking about programs running. Is there a program running that is shifting you from one now moment to the next? Yeah, maybe there is. A predetermined sequence of now moments. Is there choice to change that program? Oh yeah. Where did that program come from? Was it predetermined before birth? Actually, personally, I don't think so. I think the program that you have running, I have running, the program that we all have running is the program that we have created for ourselves through experiences of past now moments where we made decisions about the world, ourselves and other people, and decided to steer ourselves very, very subtly and subconsciously around perceived obstacles. I tried this once, it didn't work. It was a sticky situation, I'll avoid it. Or I realise that I'm not lovable and I will ensure that I continue to run that program by avoiding people that could care about me and very cleverly choosing people to hang out with that don't care about me. And if you've listened to some of my past podcasts on that topic, you'll understand that as dumb as that seems, that last statement, it's true. If you have an issue with trust because you have been cheated on or betrayed or whatever it might be, and you really believe that people are untrustworthy, unfortunately, your unconscious mind will seek to reinforce that truth by constantly leading you into situations where you become betrayed. I know it sounds mad, but the problem is that any belief system, program that you hold must be proved true in your unconscious and subconscious mind. Otherwise, your view of the world becomes threatened. And if your view of the world becomes threatened, then you go into a thing called cognitive dissonance. And this is a very, very simple explanation of how this actually occurs. So excuse me if it doesn't sound totally plausible. There are some podcasts I've done in the past around belief systems. Have a listen to those. Yeah, it's a weird thing. You know how people who've been cheated on, they keep picking people who cheat on them. And that's because, is that because they are not worthy of love? No, it's because they feel that they're not worthy of love. And in sending that frequency out, they only attract people to them that are going to prove the fact that they're unworthy of love. Because that's the frequency that they are putting forth. There's a phrase that I heard from a guy called Joe Dispenza. You've probably heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza. He said the human mind is only able to receive information that is cognizant with that person's emotional state of mind. And this is how it plays out. If you are a person that doesn't trust other people because you've been betrayed in the past, and you hold the belief of betrayal, that is your emotional state. And your brain, your mind cannot receive signals that are not cognizant with the emotional state that you hold. Therefore, you cannot perceive people who will not betray you, and this is very generally speaking, but you will very easily perceive people who can betray you. And your choices of friends, partners, becomes limited largely to those people who will betray you. It's how it works. It's a program. It's something that you can get rid of if that's your program. You can change any program as simply as changing the dial on your television set and shifting to a parallel timeline of yourself that is not on that frequency. The only thing that stops you from doing that is the belief that you hold that is the program that dictates the next now moment that you will step into. Have a think about that. It's a bit of a mind bender, but you know what? In my experience as a healing practitioner and as a mentor and a coach, that's exactly what happens. And the way we clear it is to recognize the hidden belief systems and eradicate them. Change the frequency, change the program. The other thing you can do, well, that's one way of doing it. The other way to do it is to shift into the frequency of a parallel version of you that doesn't have that belief. And then the belief completely disappears. A little bit like someone who decides they're going to give up smoking cigarettes. They decide to give it up, they go cold turkey, and they don't smoke again. And you think, how the hell did you do that? And I'll tell you how they did that. Without realising it, when they made that choice not to have a cigarette again, they stepped into a parallel version of their own reality, a parallel version, a parallel timeline of themselves that had never smoked in the past. So they never had the habit. They never had the addiction. And so they don't have the addiction now. Hey, I'm not talking about smoking. Well, actually, I did just stop smoking one day. I decided not to. That was like 22 years ago. Back then, I didn't know this stuff. And I think that's what I did. When I think back on it, I shifted. The other day, I shifted into a parallel version of myself that had some skills that I wanted, and those skills came through instantaneously. A couple of weeks ago, I shifted into a parallel version of me that was a lot, I won't say healthier, but didn't have some of the physical issues like sore knees and things that I'm coping with at my ripe age. And I'm slowly but surely seeing those issues going away. I'm seeing myself making healthier choices without any effort whatsoever, because I've shifted into the frequency of a parallel time track, a parallel reality of myself that didn't have those injuries in the first place. Okay, this is a long podcast, making up for not doing one last week. If you want to know more about this, hey, send me an email. Do it, because this is good stuff. And this is way beyond manifesting. This is way beyond the law of attraction. This is way beyond abundance thinking. It is the newest way to create the life you love. And I'm excited about it. So give me a call or send me an email if you're interested in knowing more. I'll have a chat with you. It's okay. This is not it's not an advertising break. Although I'm very, very happy to mentor any of you people, or to even book you into a healing session. But this is not an advertising break. That just was. What I'm offering for you is to email me if you want to know more about this, or give me a phone call, and I'll tell you more. But right now, I've done for today. I'm going to go and get this transcript sorted out and put this up on Podbean and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and send out an email. So, be well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.